Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Bren Cuney, Manager of Member Services with the Ohio Restaurant Association. It's my pleasure to welcome you to Serving Alcohol Responsibly to your guests. As you may know, the Ohio Restaurant Association Restaurant Education Series provides members free access to educational events that help them sustain and grow their businesses and are developed based on member feedback. RES events support a key ORA initiative, the education of our members. All educational events are posted on the ORA website, ohiorestaurant.org. To find past events, go to the Education and Events tab, then Restaurant Education Series tab. This is also where this webinar recording, along with the PowerPoint slides, will be posted in the next 2 to 3 business days. Heartland Payment Systems is the lead sponsor of all RES events. We thank them for their support of this valuable programming. Before we get started, I want to let you know how you can participate in today's webinar. At the end of the webinar, we will take your questions. However, during the webinar, please feel free to send your questions to the moderator. I already have a couple. I will show you how to do that momentarily. After the webinar ends, a survey will pop up. It will take you 3 to 5 minutes to complete. Please respond to this survey in order for us to improve our restaurant education series. We want to make sure that we are offering education you find valuable. First, for those who haven't been on a webinar before, let's orient ourselves. We're looking at an example of the GoToWebinar attendee interface, which is made up of 2 parts. The viewer window on the left, which allows you to see everything the presenters will share on their screen, and the control panel on the right. Within that control panel is how you can participate in today's event. So let's look at that. By clicking the orange arrow, you can open and close your control panel. From the View menu, you can also set the control panel not to auto-hide when inactive if you prefer to always keep it open. The audio pane provides audio information. By default, you have joined the webinar via mic and speakers. Click Audio Setup to select your computer speaker or headset devices. If you prefer, you can join the audio via telephone by selecting Use Telephone. And the dial-in information will be displayed, including an audio PIN, which you must enter. At the end of the presentation, we will answer your questions. Please send your questions to the webinar staff through this question box. Simply type in your question and hit send. If you are having any issues with this webinar, this is also where you want to send those notices. And here are your speakers: Eric Wolff, Brad Toft, Gary Gillette, and Shelley OToole. Let's start with Eric Wolff. Eric is an enforcement commander, and he is a 19-year veteran of the Ohio Investigative Unit. During that time, he has served as an enforcement agent, sober truth instructor, evidence officer, food stamp agent, training coordinator, and agent in charge of administration. Commander Wolff currently supervises the operations of 3 northern districts of OIU: Toledo, Cleveland, and Canton. He is a graduate of Northwestern University's School of Police Staff and Command and has earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Forensic Accounting from Franklin University. Welcome, Eric.
Good afternoon. Wanted this afternoon to talk a little bit about Ohio agencies that are involved with the liquor permitting process, some of the frequent violations that are out there, and some assistance that can be provided by the Ohio Investigative Unit. To start off with, as you all should know, Ohio is a control state whenever it comes to alcohol. So if you want anything to do with it, whether you want to manufacture, distribute, warehouse, ship, serve, or sell alcohol, you have to have a liquor permit. And so the 4 agencies that are involved in the liquor permitting process here in Ohio are the Ohio Department of Commerce Division of Liquor Control, the Ohio Department of Public Safety Ohio Investigative Unit, the Ohio Attorney General's Office, and then the Ohio Liquor Control Commission itself. To start with, the Ohio Division of Liquor Control is the agency responsible for controlling the manufacture, distribution, and sale of alcoholic beverages here in Ohio. They oversee the renewal and issuance of over 24,000 liquor permits as well as the management of contracts with over 450 state agencies for the distribution of spirituous liquor. And the division is the only purchaser for the state of Ohio of that spirituous liquor. Now, the Division of Liquor Control does have compliance officers that will visit permit premises across the state of Ohio to conduct administrative inspections, change the sketch of premises, and take care of other items of that nature. And they do have the authority to issue violation notices against the liquor permit here in Ohio. The next agency is the Ohio Investigative Unit. We are part of the Ohio Department of Public Safety and are responsible to help enforce Ohio's liquor laws and regulations at licensed as well as non-licensed locations across the state. We also have the authority to investigate any USDA Nutritional Assistance Program, or SNAP program, formerly known as the Food Stamp Program here in Ohio, as well as investigating tobacco sales violations. Our contact with liquor permit holders is more criminal in nature, and we also have the authority to issue violation notices against liquor permit premises, as well as make arrests for any criminal offenses that occur. So whether you receive a violation notice from the Division of Liquor Control or the Ohio Investigative Unit, all of our violation notices and reports are then forwarded to the Ohio Attorney General's Office, their liquor unit. They basically represent the state in front of the Liquor Control Commission for any violation notices. They schedule the hearings themselves before the commission, and then they represent the division for liquor control for any appeals, as well as representing the Liquor Commission itself for any appeals through the court system. After the violation notices are received by the Attorney General's office, they will basically send out a self-explanatory questionnaire to the permit holder concerning the violations. The permit holder is then responsible to ensure that that questionnaire is completed and returned to the Attorney General's office. Generally, that questionnaire is mailed out 60 to 90 days after the violation notice is issued. So after they receive the questionnaire back, they will basically docket that case for a hearing before the Ohio Liquor Control Commission. So the commission itself is a neutral and independent body that is comprised of 3 members that are appointed by the Governor of Ohio. Each of them serve a term of 6 years, and so basically we are receiving a new liquor commissioner every 2 years based on the rotating schedule. The commission itself hears all of the citation cases, whether they come from the investigative unit or the Division of Liquor Control, and they consider the merits of each case, and they have the authority to suspend or revoke the liquor permit, or they can also impose monetary forfeitures in lieu of suspension or revocation. In addition, the commission also hears any initial appeals to their decisions. And then in general, the commission also has the ability to make rules and regulations regarding the production, sales, advertising of alcohol. So now that we've talked about the 4 agencies involved, let's talk a little bit about some of the frequent violations that are heard before the Ohio Liquor Control Commission. One of the biggest areas are minors violations. There are basically 2 violations that we will issue against a liquor permit holder, and those would be the direct sale or furnishing of alcohol to underage individuals, or allowing underage individuals to possess or consume alcohol within their permit premises. So those are both administrative violations we can issue against the liquor permit, as well as criminal offenses that we can arrest the violators for as well. So the biggest way to combat minors violations is check IDs. So one of the exceptions under Ohio law is the good faith acceptance of false identification. That particular Ohio Revised Code section will actually outline specific procedures that you can take, that even if a identification is presented to you, you make bona fide efforts to ensure that the individual in front of you is in fact the person presented on the identification, that the permit holder can be protected from a violation notice. Additional frequent violations are gambling and SNAP benefits fraud. On the gambling side, again, there are certain licenses that are required through the Attorney General's office. So some of them are instant bingo without a license will be a violation we issue, as well as violations for electronic video gambling machines. On the SNAP benefits fraud, there are basically 3 methods of fraud that take place. The first is the direct sale of ineligible items, individuals that sell tobacco products or alcohol or non-food items for those benefits. Or there's the direct exchange of benefits for cash. In addition, we do have some investigations where a permit holder will accept an EBT card and actually use that at a third party, such as a grocery store or other convenience store, in order to purchase legitimate items to stock the shelves in their store. Some of the other frequent violations that are rather important to know about are the sales to intoxicated persons. That is something or a violation that we have to be able to establish knowledge on behalf of the permit holder or their agent or employee. But at the same time, permit holders can combat that by having training for their employees as well as methods and procedures in place to deal with intoxicated individuals, make sure they don't drive, and get safely home. The next three violations are basically something that you need to know on what is outlined in your liquor permit. The first two have to do with the hours of sale. So there's Sunday sales. You have to make sure that you have the proper permits to sell beer or intoxicating liquor on Sundays. And then after hours, you just need to know what the actual operation hours are for your permit, be it 1 o'clock or 2:30 in the morning. The permitting removal of alcohol sold for on-premises consumption really came about with the implementation of the smoking ban here in Ohio. Suddenly, individuals were permitting people to leave their premises and smoke out on a patio or a porch that was newly installed, and that's fine so long as those exterior portions are a part of the official sketch that's on file with the Division of Liquor Control. If not, you can contact the division to schedule an inspection of your premises and add any of those patios or outside areas onto the permit itself. Underage employment is also a problem. You just need to know the age at which individuals can perform certain functions within your permit premises based on whether you have a carry-out grocery store or a nightclub restaurant. There are 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, and 21-year-old cutoffs for different jobs within the permit premises. The next violation to talk about just briefly is the obstruction of inspection. Under Ohio law, any peace officer here in the state of Ohio has the ability to come in and conduct a warrantless administrative inspection at any time of the liquor permit premises. So you need to be sure that your employees comply with the law enforcement officers, and we will do everything we can to not to be unduly burdensome upon the operation of the business. And the final violation I wanted to talk about just very briefly is our tax issues. The Liquor Commission hears a number of tax cases every month, and so it's very important to make sure that everything you have tax-related is filed and paid timely with the state's Department of Taxation. Final thing I wanted to talk about today is the assistance that the Ohio Investigative Unit can provide permit holders. The Ohio Department of Public Safety's Ohio Investigative Unit does have an alcohol server knowledge program, or the ASK program. This is free training that's provided by the division, and we actually have an agent in every district office across the state that's dedicated to this and our other education programs. We will cover frequent violations as well as how to spot fake IDs, ways to deal with intoxicated persons. We deal with a number of different topics during the training, and it is recognized training by the Ohio Liquor Control Commission. So for any questions at all as far as scheduling an alcohol server knowledge program, any ways to file complaints or get additional information from the Ohio Investigative Unit, all of that can be found on our website, which is simply oiu.ohio.gov. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Our next speaker is Gary Gillette. Gary received his undergraduate degree from Vanderbilt University and his JD from the Ohio State University Law School. He has been practicing for over 29 years and has worked at several law firms over a period of 25 years before opening his own practice in 2010 in downtown Columbus. The focus of his practice has been on assisting businesses that have liquor permits, including restaurants, bars, and convenience stores. Gary has represented parties in the purchase and sale of businesses, liquor licensing and renewal matters, sales tax and audit matters, and liquor citations. His practice has also involved handling many different types of business matters, including formation of businesses and review and drafting of leases. He has represented his clients in a variety of commercial litigation matters. Gary is a member of the Ohio Restaurant Association and the Ohio Business Brokers Association. He has been admitted to the Ohio Bar and the Bar for the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Ohio. Welcome, Gary.
Hello. The two prime concerns with safe serving of alcohol are, one, serving alcohol to underage persons, and two, serving alcohol to an intoxicated individual. Both of these actions are violations of Ohio's liquor laws and can result in a citation to the restaurant, bar, or other permit holder. If issued a citation for selling or furnishing alcohol to any person, an investigator will deliver a document titled Violation Notice to the permit holder. And what you see on the screen is an example of a violation notice that was issued to one of my clients. And this is the citation. The violation notice provided in the seminar and all the other documents I have provided arise out of the same citation. The purpose of the violation notice is to put the permit holder on notice of the violation. No date for the hearing is set on that notice. That will be done later. The next thing that happens is the permit holder will receive the document that Commander Wolff mentioned, which is called a questionnaire from the Attorney General's office, asking if the permit holder is contesting the charges and the number of witnesses that the permit holder intends to call at the hearing. If you want to use an attorney for the citation hearing, then you will want to send the questionnaire to your attorney so the attorney can assist you in filling it out and file it for you. This will make certain that the attorney is also notified as to the hearing date as well as you. All hearings are currently held at the offices of the Liquor Control Commission on the 19th floor at 77 South High Street in downtown Columbus. I've provided, and you just saw on the screen, an example of a notice for a hearing date. All hearings are set to begin at 9 a.m. It's essentially on a first-come, first-served basis, but you will want to get there early prior to the start of the hearing so that you can talk to one of the assistant attorney generals to let them know your intentions on the case, so that if it starts, they will all start at 9. You won't know if you're going to be first or not, so you do need to be there by 9. The proceedings are more informal than court hearings or court trials. Most of permit holders are not contesting the citation itself. They're just trying to convince the commission that they take the citation seriously, desire to fully comply with Ohio liquor laws, and have policies in place to avoid future violations. As to policies, the commission expects you to make sure all employees are trained or are going to be trained in the sense that you have already scheduled their training, and that you have a policy of terminating offenders. The termination policy is not really a written policy by the commission. The commission seems to accept a policy of allowing an employee at least one mistake for sale to an underage person, but appears to expect termination on the second violation. The commission can issue a fine, which they refer to as a forfeiture. They can also issue a suspension of the license or revocation of the license. The commission is permitted to issue a fine in lieu of a suspension pursuant to Revised Code Section 4301.252. This means that the commission can set a number of days for suspension and a certain fine, and allow the permit holder to pay the fine to avoid the suspension. There is no restriction really on how far back the commission can look in making their decision as to the amount or nature of the penalty. However, the statute at Section 4301.252 does provide certain restrictions on the penalty imposed for serving alcohol to an underage person. If the permit holder has no other violation within 2 years prior to that violation, essentially being the first violation within 2 years, then the penalty is to be between $100 and $200 for each day of suspension. If the permit holder has one violation within 2 years prior to that violation, in other words, this is the second violation, then the fine is to be between $200 and $400 for each day of suspension. If the permit holder has had more than 2 violations within 2 years prior to that violation, which would make this the third or more violation, the fine is to be not less than $500 for each day of suspension. There is no limit really on the number of days of suspension. The Commission tends to double the fine for each violation, such as maybe $600 for the first, $1,200 for the second, $2,400 for the third. Another factor that they take into account is the age of the person who purchases the alcohol, which is usually a confidential informant that is used by the investigator. The Commission has a policy of imposing a higher penalty when the person buying the alcohol is 18 years old and a lower penalty if the buyer is 20 years old. No decisions are announced at the hearing. Although permit holders are always cited for selling and furnishing alcohol to an underage person as 2 separate citations, the permit holder should only be found guilty for one of those citations. So the Assistant Attorney General will always agree to drop one of them and proceed on the other one. There is no set standard as to when the Commission will impose revocation of a liquor license. Clients have frequently said to me that they heard that it's automatic on the 3rd violation or the 4th violation that there'll be a revocation, but there really is no such set policy, nothing that is automatic. An order issuing the penalty will usually come out a couple of weeks after the hearing. You will have 20 days to pay the fine. If not paid on time, the restaurant will be suspended from selling alcohol over the specific days listed in the order. And what was flashed up on the screen was a sample of an order. And I don't know if you can see somewhat small print, but the fine in this case was $1,500. Again, if the fine is not paid on time and the date is listed on the order, the restaurant will be suspended from selling alcohol over the specific days listed in the order. The order will always be set up so the suspension occurs over at least 1 weekend. It is best to lock up the alcohol during the suspension so no employees mistakenly sell alcohol. The copy of the order I provided was the first violation within 2 years, but involved an 18-year-old confidential informant. The suspension period was 10 days, so the fine amounted to $150 a day for a total of $1,500, which is in compliance with the statute. You can appeal a decision of the Commission on a citation to the Common Pleas Court, but it is very rare that any appeal is filed. There are certain circumstances where appeals are filed, where an appeal is taken, but generally it is not with the underage sales. It is important for employees to know that the person who committed the violation for underage sales may also be arrested and charged with the crime of selling alcohol to a person who is underage. They can be arrested and taken down and booked on that day. The criminal charge does not necessarily affect the administrative citation, which is brought before the Liquor Control Commission. The citation can go forward even if the criminal charge is not yet resolved. However, a finding of guilt in the criminal case, if it proceeds prior to the citation, can be evidence in front of the Commission. The second issue that I wanted to address concerns of sale to an intoxicated person. This may be of even greater concern to a restaurant than the sale to an underage person, as it poses the risk of a citation for a liquor law violation, criminal prosecution of the employee, and potential civil liability under the statute at Revised Code Section 4399.18, which is referred to as the Dramshop Act. Under that statute, the restaurant can be liable if an employee serves alcohol to an intoxicated person, which then results in injury either on the premises or off the premises. For off the premises, it could involve a drunk patron driving off and getting into an auto accident. The grounds for liability under the statute are slightly different for an injury occurring on the premises from an injury occurring off the premises. If on the premises, the plaintiff need only prove that the injury was caused by the negligence of the employee or the permit holder. If the injury occurred off the premises, the plaintiff must prove that the employee was aware that the person they were serving was intoxicated, and must also prove that the sale to the intoxicated person caused the injury. In other words, if the restaurant had not sold the alcohol to the intoxicated person, the accident would not have occurred. The person would not have been injured. While cases under the Dramshop Act may be difficult to prove for a plaintiff, they are very expensive to defend, and the exposure can be enormous. So they certainly want to be avoided. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Gary. Our next speaker is Brad Toft. Brad is a restaurant insurance specialist from Kinker Evlay Insurance in Cincinnati, Ohio. He's been an independent agent since 1992 and has specialized in covering restaurants since 2008. He is ServSafe alcohol certified and enjoys working with the Ohio Restaurant Association in various capacities, including membership development and writing articles for A La Carte magazine. Welcome, Brad.
Thanks, guys. I'm going to keep mine a little bit more short and to the point because I'm more of a proponent of the ServSafe training. So I want to leave plenty of room for the question and answer segment and try to help you out on that front as well. But to get right to the they're looking at server training nowadays as opposed to a few years ago. The underwriters used to, there's a question on every insurance application about server training. They used to take your word for it. If you check no, chances are you're at the bottom of the pile as far as not having the training for your servers. Nowadays, most of the carriers are looking at that question much more closely, and they are also asking for verification of that server training. So many of the carriers are no longer taking the restaurateur's word for whether or not they've had the server training put in place. So many of the carriers are coming down strictly on server training in regards to getting the best possible pricing for a particular restaurant. So obviously the more serious a restaurant takes it, the more serious they are going to take the pricing the account appropriately. On to how liquor percentages affect class codes. That's another popular question people ask. The rule of thumb usually is under 30% is good. Once you get up over that 30 to 75%, gets a little shaky. Once over 75% liquor, that's pretty much a bar at that point. So obviously the higher up on the percentage you go, the tougher it is to underwrite, and the more scrutiny will be involved in that server training. The last important thing that I look at for my restaurants is the type of liquor being served. A fine dining restaurant with an extensive wine list, a high-end bourbon selection, microbrews, things of that nature, is going to have a significant difference in the clientele and also the amount of liquor being served. I always refer to it as quality over quantity. They're not slinging buckets of Miller Lite on a happy hour. So they are going to have a little bit of a skewed percentage on those class codes. So typically a fine dining restaurant at 40% liquor probably looks better than a local, let's say, sports bar that's doing around 30% liquor. It's a totally different amount of alcohol being served, and obviously the price points are going to drive those percentages up. So that's kind of what I look for on a restaurant as far as underwriting goes. And then the next thing is non-properly underwritten accounts leads to the claims aspect. And some of this is going to circle back to what was just discussed on the dramshop laws. Two important components of the claims aspect is the liquor liability. That is, in my opinion, the person leaving the restaurant intoxicated, causing damage to property or bodily injury once they're away from the restaurant. That is a number one concern, because if something bad happens on that front, like he said, the cost will be enormous. And then the second important part on a claims issue is the assault and battery. People in the restaurant actually causing physical harm, basically a fight breaking out in the restaurant due to intoxicated patrons. Recently I can give you multiple examples, but once something goes wrong on that front, it's really hard to recover from that, and it doesn't take many incidents to get your loss ratio and your claims out of whack if something on that front happens. Again, it all comes back to the training. The procedures need to be in place for your servers so they know how to handle difficult situations, be it an intoxicated, overserved patron or when that patron decides to leave. So usually when I walk in and they don't say yes to that, if they're not willing to get the training, I'm probably in all likelihood going to walk away from that particular account. So that being said, that's all I have from the insurance perspective. Be happy to take questions and answers at this point.
Well, Brad, we're going to go to the fourth speaker, and then we will wrap up with some questions. We already have some questions for you. So I'm going to go to Shelley, though. So our last speaker is Shelley OToole. Shelley has been Managing Director of Member Services for the Ohio Restaurant Association since April 2007. As Managing Director of Member Services, Shelley leads the sales and service effort for Ohio's largest trade association for the food service industry, the Ohio Restaurant Association. Her primary responsibilities include developing and implementing strategic member recruitment and retention plans, and leading the sales and marketing effort for ORA products, including ServSafe food safety and alcohol safety training products. Shelley has devoted more than 25 years of her professional career to the hospitality industry. She's a member of the Council of State Restaurant Associations, the Ohio Society of Association Executives, the American Society of Association Executives. Welcome, Shelley.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Well, it's my pleasure to provide a quick overview of the ServSafe alcohol training program. Knowledgeable, responsible alcohol service we know is a priority for every operation. And the ServSafe alcohol program prepares bartenders, servers, hosts, bussers, and all front of the house staff to effectively and safely handle difficult situations in your operation. So that's why ServSafe creators teamed up with experts in the beverage, food service, medical, insurance, legal, academic, and regulatory industries to develop this comprehensive program. And you can trust the ServSafe alcohol program. It was built by the same creators as the highly regarded ServSafe food safety program, which, as you probably know, has been protecting the industry for nearly 40 years now. So a little about the program course. It is divided into 4 key sections: law and your responsibility, recognizing and preventing intoxication, checking IDs, and handling difficult situations. And what operators really love about the program is that the training materials reflect real-world experiences and practical approaches. So what are the benefits of ServSafe alcohol training? Well, it is convenient. It's available print and online. And the online class is available 24/7 to accommodate our industry's non-traditional work schedules. And the really nice thing is if you have some staff that take an in-person class and others that take the online class, you won't have to worry about consistency. Also, the lessons and online testing are available in English and Spanish, and to accommodate questions, bilingual service center reps are available to assist. So how long will the training take? Well, because you have options, there's some flexibility. The classroom session can be taught in 2-hour increments between 2, 4, or 6 hours, and that really depends on the level of interaction and review you prefer. And the online version takes between 90 minutes and 2 hours. And once you purchase it online, you have 90 days to complete it, so you don't have to rush through it in a few days once you purchase it. The primary exam has 40 questions, and the advanced exam is for those who want to be a ServSafe alcohol instructor, has 70 questions, and that exam has to be proctored. But the primary exam does not have to be proctored. And once you pass, you'll get a 3-year national certificate. What's the investment? How much is it going to cost your company? Well, the ORA member price is discounted to $19.70 for the participant's guide and the exam answer sheet in English or Spanish, or if you take the online class, it's $25.50. And what's really great is for instructors, there are instructor tools available, and there's a 5-package DVD set, and you can purchase it in a bundle or individually. And DVD topics include alcohol law and your responsibility, handling difficult situations, and evaluating real-world scenarios. So how do you get your 15% member discount? You go to the link servsafe.com / and it's at the top in red, SS/SRA/Ohio, or what's probably more easier is if you just go to our website, ohiorestaurant.org, scroll down to the bottom of the landing page, and you'll see the ServSafe logo, and you can click on that and follow the instructions on how to get the price list and how to order. However, I have great news today. The NRA has introduced a holiday promotion with a 30% off discount. So that's twice the member savings. So be sure and take advantage of that. If you were on the fence about training, it's available now through the end of the year, the end of 2014. And to get that discount, you just go to servsafe.com/holiday. And the discount prices are $15.40 for the guide with the exam answer sheet, and then the online course and exam is $21. So it's really a great deal. I also wanted to mention that you can order the other ServSafe training products and enjoy that 15% member discount via the first web address I provided. And again, the easiest way is just to go to the Ohio Restaurant Association website and navigate through ServSafe. And as you know, there's the food safety classes, the manager training, and the food handler program, but they've also introduced a new online allergens training program. That's really great. So when you purchase ServSafe products, you have the satisfaction of knowing that profits are reinvested in the industry for educational outreach and advocacy programs. As you can see, ServSafe alcohol training is an effective tool that can be used to help build an organizational culture that promotes individual responsibility. And that's really what you want. That's the ultimate goal. Thank you.
Thanks, Shelley. Now we are going to take your questions, and there are a lot of them, but feel free to continue sending the questions in. We'll officially end the webinar at 3 o'clock. But the speakers have all agreed to answer all the questions that come in, and will be recorded in case you need to leave. So I'm going to go to, any of the speakers that feel that they could answer the question, just please identify yourself and then go ahead and chime in. Okay, so first question is, do you find insurance, and this one's for Brad, do you find that insurance companies favor a formal alcohol awareness training versus an internal training program? And is there a significant benefit for using a formal program? Brad, you need to unmute yourself.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Yes, formal training, yes, yes, yes. Like I said in my earlier slide, they are asking for verification of that formal training now. More than 50% of the carriers I work with want verification of that formal training. If you have to do something, now that, I mean, it's not a requirement in Ohio, as long as you're doing something, that's fine, but more and more they are going to get to the point where they are going to require formal training. So it will improve how a carrier looks at you, formal training as opposed to doing it yourself.
Okay, and this may be a question we'll have to look into, but the next question is, how do the laws vary from state to state? Because this particular company has stores in Florida, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. And I know that if you go to ServSafe.com, you can get some additional information, but I don't know if any of the speakers might be able to answer that.
Well, this is Gary Gillette. I think you can assume that they do vary state to state. In terms of liquor laws in general, in terms of permits and issuance of permits, it's quite different in every state. As to underage sales, I'm not familiar with what other states do that are different than Ohio. So I have not had to deal with that issue outside the state.
Anyone else have any?
I will say, I know the dramshop laws in Ohio are more lenient than most. It doesn't mean that you don't need the training and you can't be sued. Okay. So that's usually what I tell people is get the training.
Okay. And for the attendee that asked this question, we will definitely look into that and get back to you. So next question is, I want to hold a wine tasting. I have a wine and beer license. What are the steps? Is that something we might be able to answer for her, or should I look into that as well?
This is Gary Gillette. There are, I don't have it right in front of me, but there are specific licenses regarding wine tasting, but I'd be glad to, if they want to provide me an email address, I can answer that one outside the seminar.
And from an insurance perspective, if they already carry a liquor license, you should already have a code on your policy to make sure you're protected for that, either under the restaurant code or to make sure you have a liquor liability class code on there to pick that exposure up.
Great, thank you. Here's the next question. If a guest uses our valet services, isn't it true that we are forced to return the keys to the guest for their car? If they do leave in their car and they are intoxicated, what's the process to help protect the business and the other drivers on the road?
Would you like me to answer the ServSafe answer?
Sure.
The best thing you can do is notify the police. You cannot physically take keys from someone. You can ask for it. You can ask them to try to arrange alternate transportation via a taxi. If the person is adamant and wants to leave, you are not supposed to get physical with them, i.e., wrestle that person's keys away from them. The best thing you can do is to notify the police department as soon as possible.
Anyone else have any comments?
Just from a legal perspective, I would agree with those comments. I don't think you cannot physically take anything from that person. So I would agree that is the proper way to handle it.
Okay. Another question that came up is related to that is, I know someone is how can I know if someone is intoxicated? Are there signs to look for?
It's Brad again. You want me to field that one?
Yes.
Okay. The best way in all these things for the restaurant owners, teamwork is key, because having multiple sets of eyes on your customers is essential. So the bussers are as important as the bartenders, in my opinion. The best thing you can do is look for any signs of impairment. Could be impaired judgment, somebody buying drinks for strangers, slurred speech, things of that nature, motor coordination, all the basic essentials of what you would look for in somebody that might have had one too many. The problem you have with that is your quote-unquote regulars. They're going to have a higher tolerance built in. They're not going to show the normal signs of an inexperienced drinker. So in any case, for the servers, you really need to count drinks as well. Because a regular that has 10 beers, let's say, is not going to act the same as an inexperienced person drinking 10 beers, if that makes sense. So really counting, and also look for all those signs of impairment.
Great. Next question. If a person leaves your establishment after drinking and gets into an accident, is the restaurant liable even if they didn't overserve them?
I think that's one for Gary.
Yeah, well, I would say if they did, excuse me, the key is whether the person was intoxicated when they were at the restaurant. If you're serving someone who's intoxicated and they are visibly intoxicated so that you know they're intoxicated, then the restaurant is liable. If the serving the alcohol is directly related or cause of the accident. If, for example, the person comes there and has 4 drinks and then goes somewhere else and drinks before they then drive off and have an accident, then it may be that they didn't get intoxicated until after they left. So, the issue is, in terms of off-premise liability, is whether you know that the person was intoxicated. If you do and continue to serve them, then the restaurant will be liable.
Wonderful. What age must a server be in order to serve draft beer in a restaurant setting? Closed or bottled beer? So question is, is there a different age for a server to serve draft beer or closed or bottled beer?
Well, the ages are, you have to be 21 to be a bartender. So what they're asking is, you have to be 21 to be a bartender, and you have to be 19 to be 19 or over to be a waitress. So I don't know if Commander Wolff has what their position is about if the server is also walking up and drawing the draft or making the drink. Do they become a bartender, and that makes them need to be 21? I'm not sure what the state's position is on that.
Okay. So, but if it's a server
here with the Ohio Investigative Unit.
Okay, great.
The 3 age restrictions here in Ohio are basically at 18 years of age, you can sell alcohol in a retail setting as far as grocery store or carryout. So those are 18-year-old clerks there. That's the requirement there. Now, as far as soon as you turn 19, you can be a waiter or waitress. You can also sell beer, be it bottled beer across a bar or draft beer. You're okay at 19 years of age. However, to be behind the bar mixing drinks, dealing with intoxicating or spirituous liquor, you have to be 21 years of age.
There we go. There's the answer. Thank you. Is there a problem with a restaurant with a D1 permit delivering closed beer? Anyone have an answer to that?
Sorry about that. What was the question again?
The question is there a problem with a restaurant with a D1 permit delivering closed beer? So it sounds like it's maybe a delivery service, maybe a pizza delivery service. And can they deliver closed beer with a D1 permit? I will tell you, a D permit allows them to sell. A D1 permit allows them to sell closed containers for off-premise consumption. So in other words, they can act like a convenience store and sell you a bottle of beer that the cap hasn't been taken off, and that person can then leave and take it with them. But I would say they cannot deliver it because you have to have a separate license in Ohio for transporting alcoholic beverages, and a D permit is not licensed for transportation. And if Commander Wolff probably can respond as well to that.
Yes, Eric Wolff here. Yes, I would agree with that. The basic idea also is what area is covered under the liquor license. That covers the business itself for transactions that take place within the boundaries of that liquor permit. So once you start talking about delivery, now you're going beyond the boundaries of that liquor permit. You're transporting that alcohol, and then that delivery is taking place at a remote location. There's also any number of issues with age verification at that point. There's an increased likelihood of delivery to underage individuals. So there's just a number of issues that can come about once you start talking about delivery of alcohol beyond the boundaries of the liquor permit premises.
That is great. Something definitely we hadn't thought about, especially the age issue. Next question is, it's related to just the class, ServSafe alcohol. Will I have a better chance of passing the online class or in person? So I guess the question is one class easier than the other?
I think I'm the only one that's taking the class.
This is Shelley. No.
Oh, I think they're both about the same. You still have to know the material.
I can tell you that from National Restaurant Association, the passing rate is about the same. There's really no difference. So it really depends on how the individual learns best.
Great.
I enjoy the classroom setting because you could ask questions easier than taking it on the computer. That's why I preferred the classroom when I took mine.
Wonderful. Next question is, must a smoking area underneath a detached carport be attached to the premises?
The answer is that if you're going to serve alcohol, if you want to serve alcohol in a adjacent outdoor area, it has to be on your liquor permit. The only requirement is, again, the only requirement is to be on a liquor permit. So for example, say you had a building and behind it you had a outdoor patio. The patio couldn't be attached. It doesn't have to be attached, but you would have to have some sort of fence or gate around the outdoor area. That's really the only requirement. In other words, your outdoor area, you can't simply walk from the public area onto the permit area. You can't be able to walk back and forth between them unless you go through a gate where there can be a sign that says that you can't take alcohol beyond this point. So if you want to expand your permit to include an outdoor area, you would file an application for expansion, and the Division of Liquor Control is going to require that you have some sort of fence or railing that goes around, and will permit you to have a gate access, but you'll have to have some sort of sign there to preclude people from going in and out. But in terms of it has to be attached. It does not have to be attached. Again, it's just you have to have limited access. That's all.
Thanks, Gary. When guests want to leave the restaurant with wine that they have purchased but did not finish consuming in its entirety, what precautions should the restaurant take?
Okay, I'll answer this, that if the restaurant doesn't have, I don't think the restaurant can stop the patron. If they ask, the restaurant will probably say that you cannot take. My understanding is that once a bottle of wine is open, it's an open container, and just popping a cork back in it doesn't change it to a closed container. It's still an open container.
Yeah, there is.
My understanding is.
Oh, I'm just wanting this, Brian. I want to interrupt you because we actually, a couple of years ago, there was the Merlot to go program, which they can restock it, and there are items called wine doggy bags. But I think, so I think that's what they can do, and the restaurants would have to purchase the wine doggy bags. I did have this question, a member just asked it a couple of weeks ago, and you can recork it, and if you have a heat sealer, seal it with plastic again, or that type of thing. So,
otherwise, generally, you know, unless it's done the way that she says, then it's not appropriate for them to take it with them. It would be treated like an open container and in violation of the law. However, I do not believe the restaurant can, you know, physically prevent somebody from doing something.
Yeah.
It would be, the violation would be the customer's violation, not the restaurant's violation of taking that with them. If the restaurant said, no, you're not supposed to, but they insisted, I don't think the restaurant can force them physically.
Well, and the next question is related to the Merlot to go program. This person is asking if that program has been dangerous or has had a negative effect on the restaurant, restaurant industry with relationship to drunk driving or traffic violations. So has, you know, Eric or Gary, have you seen any results of this?
I'll let Eric answer that if he knows. I don't have any knowledge of it.
Yes, Eric here. I have no knowledge of negative impacts of that program as well. It would fall in line, I would feel, with a lot of the microbrews that are out there, allowing individuals to purchase growlers of locally made beers to take home and enjoy. So I know of no negative impact of that program.
Okay. Yeah, and that's definitely something with the growlers we should definitely consider doing an article on that, because in the Merlot to Go program, just to refresh people's memory of what that is and what they can and cannot do. Okay, next question. We have some great questions here, so thank you all for hanging in there. Are there any posters or postings available from ServSafe Alcohol or from the state of Ohio to help reinforce the messages of alcohol safety?
Eric here. With the Ohio Investigative Unit, we've had several programs over the years dealing with various aspects of safe serving, including drug drinks, your bar, your responsibility, and we do have some posters available. Requests for those can be made via our website.
Great. There are no, well, actually, I'm sorry, there's one more question. And Brad, since you are a ServSafe certified person, you might be able to give a good answer to how do I handle an intoxicated individual?
Throw them out the front door. No, I'm kidding. The best thing, there's a bunch of different ways you can handle that. From obviously stopping the ServSafe. In the ServSafe program, there's almost an entire chapter on this, so there's not really any one right answer. Offering them food, would be one thing, something that's high in fat that's going to slow down the alcohol getting into their system. The best way to handle it is try to get that, if they're going to leave, try to get that person alternate transportation home, be it a taxi, a friend, have them call someone. Again, like I said, you can't physically take their keys, as I said earlier, but trying to keep that person off the road, in my opinion, is the number one thing. And just really just trying to be calm and comfortable with that person, because you don't want the other thing to happen either. You don't want a fight to erupt in your establishment. So really the best way to handle it is as gentle as possible. And really the one thing that they stress in the ServSafe training is express concern for the person without trying to escalate the situation, because it will be a difficult situation. So the best way you can handle it is to be patient and understanding, and hopefully that person will see the fact that you're really just looking out for them and everyone else. So there's not really any one right answer. There's a various number of things you can do, but empathy being the number one, and to try to keep that person off the road if at all possible, and if not, to involve the authorities in the document as best you can that you took the means to ensure the public safety.
Wonderful. Well, I want to thank everyone for participating today. I wanted to remind you that 2015 is just around the corner, so plan on attending some educational programs at NAPICS. And remember that you get a free ticket for each $100 of membership investment. And we will have a safety training there, as well as food handler training, which will be the first time that we have offered that at the NAPICS show. Please take a moment to fill out the survey link that will pop up after we end this webinar. We really appreciate your time in completing this as we plan the 2015 Restaurant Education Series events. I'd like to thank our speakers for providing their expert advice and time. And I want to thank you for your participation today and for your continued investment in the Ohio Restaurant Association through your membership. This ends today's webinar. Have a great day.